Hello, hello, and welcome. I welcome you, and even you. Not you, not you. These are my co-hosts, Nava Kavlin, Sophie and and the newest member of the podcast squad.
So glad to be joining you guys. This is
Back
great.
by popular demand. What we are doing here is, what are we doing here? We are doing the glorious finale of my show, You. It's all of our show. It's public domain at this point. We're gonna do a two-parter because there's just so much good, juicy content, and that's what you need. You need content like this, just constantly, no matter what you're doing. If you have content on a big screen, have it on a small screen right here, and an iPad right here. No books. We don't want any talking, thinking, or books. Music is even questionable.
Definitely not ours.
Yeah.
So let's just get started. We're going to start with we're not going through the whole season. We're only doing the last episode because it is quite possibly, Lee would be biased because he directed the final episode. It may be, I think we should say that it is the best episode of the whole series.
Nava and I aren't biased, and that's what we say.
Yeah, they want to not like it, actually.
No, I think
They're rooting against it.
I think it is the best episode of the whole series, and I previously felt that way about the finale of season 3, and I really didn't think anything would top that for me. And I just think this finale is spectacular. We got to watch it ahead of time to screen it. And that was a little bit of a tragedy because I had to watch it by myself and I was freaking out and I was like, I'm not allowed to text anyone about how good this is. And it's so good. I was like screaming in my living room. It was so good. I just loved it. Congratulations to both of you.
Yeah, it really is incredible.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Very cool.
Stop. Stop.
Yeah.
Let's just get to it.
Before we jump in with a clip, can you set the scene? Like, where did you film this? How was this different from other episodes? Because it felt pretty different. Was the scope, the budget different? Kind of paint the picture for us.
Well, Lee, maybe you're best.
I'll tee it up a little bit, and then I mean my memory is already a little foggy, but
you got to make it snappy though.
Snappy is going to be. This episode is kind of a road movie. You've got Joe and Bronte are on the road. They're on the land. They're in a car, Joe's car, and they're making their way to the Canadian border. So the first half of the episode is a sort of road movie. The two of them, in theory, sort of running from the law. And then the second half of the episode is what I would call like a monster in the house story or a horror movie, which is what Joe is the monster in the house. And that was, for me, just a ton of fun because it really is just this cat and mouse tete-a-tete between the two of you. And it becomes this just very fun, taut chamber piece with the two. But so it was sort of like two little episodes within the episode, and obviously you have a point of view shift as well, where we're gonna get into Bronte's head and have Bronte's point of view as well, which I think is really sort of helpful in sort of the evolution of this particular season. But that's how I would describe it. I've never laughed as hard on set as I did making this episode, which is bizarre. We're not making a comedy; we're making something quite dark, and obviously it goes to a very dark place. And I think it speaks to, and I tell this to everybody, like one of, if not the best working relationship I've had with an actor has been with you. We are just very, I think, creatively in sync, but also, dare I say, kind of enjoy working together. At least I do. I don't want to speak for you. But I would say we started laughing about so many things, so many running jokes from the pilot. And I'm sure everybody skipped that episode because they saw I was the guest and they're like, I'm going to get to Eddie Redmayne and Felicity Jones and whoever this, gargoyle is that's
like
normally
a mix
behind
between
the camera.
Eddie Redmayne and Felicity Jones.
Honestly.
Do I? I usually get, who do I normally get? I don't know, some kind of troll looking person. But no, but in all seriousness, we laughed so hard that we talked about this, I think, a little bit last time. Maddie, who plays Bronte, who's so great in this episode, occasionally would look at us like, "Hey guys, can we get back to work?"
And we're like, "We've been here. We've been here the entire time."
But it was a blast, and I do think, and we'll talk about this too, the level of work that Jason Sokoloff and Marco Siega did to get us to this episode where we had literally as many days as we wanted.
It was crazy.
As many resources. I've never had it in my career. I probably will never have it again.
Yeah, maybe.
And I really owe it to them. And that made, I think, this episode. I was telling Nava before we started I generally sort of hate stuff I work on, and sort of have a hard time watching it.
I'm really unfamiliar with that relationship.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
sure
what you
you
need to
don't
do
know
is
enough.
you need to lean in. You need to dig in and love what you do.
Well, I love this episode.
ingratitude.
I do. I do love this episode. So
As you should.
Yes, I do too.
I do have a
I'm excited.
question, Lee.
Yeah,
Given
yeah,
that you
yeah.
did
Hi.
have more days and more budget, what was the decision to keep the length at 52 minutes, I think, and not make it longer?
Well, I'm always one of like, if it can be shorter, it probably should be. Do you know what I mean?
So the opposite of this podcast.
Well, it's definitely the opposite of this podcast. No, I think, well, number one, that the episode that Michael Foley wrote, which is dynamite and obviously teed us up for success.
Wasn't it Michael and Justin or Michael and
No,
Neil?
Michael and Neil. Sorry,
Michael and
Neil.
Neil,
So sorry. Of course, Michael and Neil. I mean, I really mean it when I say I think they just absolutely. I think writing a finale, not that I've done it, has to be harder than writing a pilot. Wrapping up 5
Yeah.
seasons of mythology and character, all the payoffs that you want to do. They just absolutely hit a grand slam with this in every respect, and so we were sort of teed up for success. But part of the success, I think, of what the script they wrote is that it was, for all the things they had to do, really efficient and
Yeah,
really
it was really
economical.
tough.
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
guys heard, I'm digress for 1 second, have you heard,
Love it.
I've heard Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, I don't know those guys, huge fans, been watching the studio, love it, brilliant. If you haven't
is that
seen
out
it,
now?
It's
Yeah.
first few
It looks
episodes.
crazy.
It's so good. I've heard they have a policy they call Undie a Hundy for a feature under 100 minutes. Is
Right.
like, and I think in the age of like movies getting longer.
Oh
and,
my goodness, are they long?
Yeah, and the theatrical experience being really marginalized and jeopardized, that lean and mean is the way to go. And so I think we there was not a desire to sort of make this feel bloated. Like I wanted it to feel super propulsive, and I think it does.
It does. Every second counts.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible.
And now what we're going to show you is a little snippet of the first scene, the opening scene, which poses actually the question that Michael and Neil had to answer, that we all had to answer in our own way. The hardest answer. What is the ending that Joe Goldberg deserves? The internet is a Twitter with all its ideas, and has been since the show came out. And really, I think the question all along has been like, what is enough? Jail, death? They almost seem too simple. They don't seem fitting. So this entire episode is, I think, Bronte becoming, if it hasn't already been clear, she is now fully the avatar of the audience, right?
Yeah.
And wondering, what do we do with this man? Enjoy.
How could I love you, knowing what I knew? What did you do to Beck? And the biggest question of all.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
How do I give you the ending you deserve?
What's fun about the first half of this episode, and in this moment in particular, is we're getting Bronte's point of view. And not only do we get her point of view, we start to understand that, oh, she's not on the run with Joe. She's been playing the long game to figure out how to ensnare him and make it count. It's a little bit of the sort of the Robert Durst question, right? If you watch the Jinx.
The Jinx, right.
Yeah.
Didn't
Did
see
he
it.
also kill his wife?
His first wife.
More than that, I
yeah,
think,
yeah.
right?
No, there was sort of a long
His
list.
first wife,
His
okay.
his first wife, his best friend, and then this poor guy in Texas.
Oh my God.
But I think
Why weren't the other ones poor, Lee?
no, they're all poor people. All
This poor guy.
The first
The
wife,
woman
though,
deserved it,
yeah.
no, all very unfortunate to have crossed paths with Robert Durst. But I think the takeaway for me, at least, and a lot of people, is sort of the why, and then Kathy, his first wife, is still lingering. Like, where is she? She's never been found. And I think that I thought about that when we were making this episode, as it relates, like Kathy. Beck is Kathy for us, if for those of you that have seen The Jinx and know that very sad story. And so I think we do, to your point, Penn, want to see Bronte pull this information out of him, extract that, and that feels to me way more satisfying than just shooting him dead or calling the cops and seeing him carted away.
And I think what started happening, I think in episode 6, officially, it may have happened a little bit before, I can't recall, but she starts to have her own voiceover, and that has happened it's happened in moments for female protagonists in this show, but never to the degree at all that it does in this episode, because there's nothing. Joe is not going to like reassume the mantle of the narrator. He is being finally deconstructed, and every device that he's used is essentially now going to be used against him and then taken from him. So, which is, I think, it's really interesting and satisfying and fun and worthwhile, because it's just happening on so many levels. It's happening on like a kind of frothy pop culture level, and it's happening at a really deep level where you're thinking about like the plight of women and abuse and all this stuff. So I don't know. I think the fact that this is the beginning of her becoming the one you want to see, actually. Like I think the goal of this episode was and is, and I think it's achieved, at least to some great degree, that by the end you're like, yeah. And I'm not meaning this as like the sort of comic aside as I do. I think by the end of this you do think like, yeah, I think I am tired of Joe and I want more of her or just someone else.
I think that's what makes her her character so interesting for this role, because she's like admitting to everybody and to herself that she still has this like thing.
Yeah, she
for
loves
Joe.
him in a way.
Yeah. Like she asked that question, like, how could I love you knowing what I knew? And that's what the audience feels too, or that's what I felt at least. I was telling Nava, I was so nervous for the finale because I was like, I don't think anything could satisfy me, because I still have this like, I hate to admit it, but like a little like, oh, Joe, I feel for you, or like I want to see you get out of this somehow. So I really didn't think anything would be satisfying. It was so satisfying. I think that's because she admits like she feels that way too a little bit.
Well, and we get later in the episode, we have this great scene where we'll talk about it in the boat, where even through this hidden agenda of getting him, he's doing things that are kind of making her feel for him. And she has to sort of remind herself, like, how is it? And sort of saying to herself and the audience, so the love is just a very strong thing that make you overlook a lot of bad, right? So no, it's a fun like push and pull for her to play with. And what I'll say, Nava, just in that little moment of her walking up to Joe, I think Maddie does such a great job as sort of looking at Joe with these loving eyes, because she's playing the part of loving partner, right? And at the same time, we're seeing behind the eyes this sort of like, I've got to do this hard thing, and I love this person, and I'm a little scared of him. Like, I mean, there's a lot going on, and I think Maddie pulls it off pretty beautifully.
Yeah, she really did. She had a lot to do.
Here you go.
Thanks.
Hey, do you need help?
Do I? This could all be over. What do you mean? I'm fine. But the second I point a finger, you run. I don't get answers, and no one will know what you really are.
I guess my eyes are bigger than my arms.
Where you headed? Glamping with the gals?
Yeah, glamping with the gals.
Well, be careful out there. A lot of predators. Bears.
Right. Got it, thanks.
You okay?
Yeah, he didn't recognize me or anything.
You're shaking.
Oh, adrenaline. Be careful, you're gonna get me addicted to this Bonnie and Clyde shit.
You astonish me more every day.
Do you think Joe at that point like to me that in that sequence he's like, I'm suspicious of you, I'm suspecting you?
I think it's just a device.
Yeah.
It's just a device. And And he is actually, I mean, if you look at my face, just acting brilliantly. What I'm doing is, I mean, because to me it is just like it's funny with a device like that. You don't need to do anything more than just like just like say it, ground it, whatever. Just throw it away because that's for the audience. That's for the construction of the thing.
Yeah.
It's like. That's just part of the scaffolding. It has to be there, and you have to have that moment of suspense. It's really actually for her, because look at what she did. She had way more to do, and the audience has a lot to start to see in her. All I had to do was just keep doing that terrible Joe shit where it's like he's just so technically tone deaf, and he's just like, I'm going to give you the slightest little smile. I remember we were driving, just like getting, just shots of us driving that you would need to use at some point. You weren't sure when. Some of it was used there where, and we're on a walkie, and sometimes Lee will give, if the camera's on Maddie, it's like, all right, now Maddie, now you have to, you're just giving us what we need to look like so you can use it.
It was pretty prescriptive and probably
which is
not
fine. It happens in everything.
Sure.
I mean, it's not like,
Well, it was hard. I mean, that little driving piece in particular, again, like the opening scene, it's sort of, he's looking at her, in love with her, and you're meant to feel like, if you're from Joe's perspective, she's looking back at him with loving eyes.
Yeah.
But then as the camera shifts and we shift to her perspective, we see that those loving eyes are a facade, and it's sort of like there's this fear, the undercurrent of fear under it. And so, and there's really not much, if any, dialogue there. So I was trying to give you guys, okay, like, when we rack from Joe to Maddie, happy to rack to Maddie, happy, sad. That's generally how I direct, right? Happy, sad.
More of that.
More happy.
Less of that.
But yeah,
there are
that
also
was
whistles involved.
That's right. That's right. No, but those little things are way more technical and probably not fun in that sort of free actor thing that we're going to get into later. And I'm using. You guys probably feel a little bit more like props or like we're shooting a commercial or something, but.
No, that's where I remember when we were doing that, there were some points where I had to smile and look at her so much. I was just sort of laughing to myself, like just knowing that it would need to be used somewhere, and I wouldn't be sure where, but just being like, man, Joe is just tone deaf till the grave. He just has no idea what's going on.
All right, next clip.
Why am I up here?
So I can see you like this. I told you I'd put you at the center of the universe.
You skipped my avenue when you said you were passing through.
What is wrong with me that I know who you are, and part of me can still feel this good? But who doesn't love to be loved? More than justice, more than reality, love is just stronger. And you weaponize it. Is this how good Beck felt before you killed her? Because with you, love has a price. This is where it was headed the whole time. Peak romance.
Such a good song. Such
So
a good moment.
That's such a good moment. That's incredible.
Good moment.
Yeah.
Editors crushed it. Jaron Lopez, who co-cut the pilot, cut this episode and did a killer job. Here's a few things I remember from that, and then I'll let you jump in.
ahead.
We're shooting on this little pond, which is a generous description.
It was a comically small, shallow pond that was definitely man-made and full of goose shit.
Yeah.
You
was
can't
like-
tell. You
it
definitely
was-
can't tell. I couldn't.
But, for a seemingly very simple little scene, right? Two people on a boat and, talking. And it's one of these things where, unless you sort of have seen the sausage get made, it was like you and back in the subway platform. Should be pretty straightfortard. But getting, those are stunt doubles out on the lake to do that safely. You've got underwater safety. You've got, it's 3 a.m. or whatever. I remember it being just like,
Why was
a
it
little
3
tricky.
a.m?
We were shooting in the middle of the summer, did not have a lot of nighttime. We had other work to do that night, and we're behind as usual. And
Even with all that extra time and money.
all that extra time and money is still behind. No, but we started with the coverage, right? We started with your coverage and Maddie's coverage, where we were just off the edge of that little pier, and it was off a crane, and it was fine. But I really love this because for me, as we discussed, first half of the episode is a road movie, but also a romance. You know what I mean? You want to sort of fall in love with them together, and to your point, kind of in that weird Patricia Highsmith, Tom Ripley, Dickie Greenleaf kind of, you want Tom to get away with it, and you know what I mean? Even though just because you also, I mean, cause I'm thinking of the the viewer here, how we all just sort of, we want not only Joe, but like you said, kind of anybody you're watching, who is the central character, you kind of want them to get away because you're like, I just don't want it to get worse. Yeah, totally. I really do. I really do feel for everybody, and I actually apologize for dragging each and every fan. I apologize profusely. It was wrong of me. I shouldn't be policing anybody's thoughts, emotions, opinions. I'm done.
Wait, so the shots where like you see Penn at the bottom of the boat.
That was a stunt double with my face superimposed.
That's right. Face replacement.
Where were you shooting those? You weren't actually on the lake. Where were you?
No, we were.
You were.
We were on the lake. It was just like one end of the boat was sort of tethered to that little pier, which we built.
And when Maddie and I had to get on the boat, the entire crew was like, quiet. The actors are boarding.
Yeah,
they're on water, and there's like police standing by, and a guy with a scuba mask, and there's like a medic. I mean,
were there any incidents? Nobody fell in. Nobody.
The number, no. Well, I mean, except for when I had to dive in, and
later.
So there's all kinds of strangely conflicting kind of thing. But the joke I'm trying to make is that it is so funny when there's something where there's like any modicum of danger, there are like three people who are just profusely, not apologetic, but just like, hey, listen, if you need anything, like, I'm your guy. One of them is Tony Guida. Is that how you say his last name?
Yeah, our stunt coordinator.
Yeah, our stunt coordinator. One of the kindest men on the planet.
The best.
And
did the pilot with us, did the first season.
And a phenomenal stunt coordinator.
Yeah.
This was one of those things where I'm about to step on a boat, and he's like, hey, listen, man, you uncomfortable? We're out of here.
I got a van waiting.
and I'm like, Tony, I really appreciate the concern, but guys, I'm a grown human man. I can get onto a boat.
Yeah.
Well, we do tend to, I think, outsmart ourselves in filmmaking, and I won't get too far into it, but there was a thing where I wanted the camera in the back of the car.
That's
Remember,
right. This was crazy. Yes.
And we can't we can't put an operator back there. It's got to be towed or driven by a teamster, and we go through all this shit, and finally we end up with this insane contraption.
This insanely elaborate,
which
I don't even know how to
making.
describe it. It was like a massive construct, like a steel construct,
where the car couldn't turn one way.
Yeah,
and you turned to me and you went, wouldn't it be just easier if I drove the car? I was like, yep.
Yeah, it would be.
It would have been.
But because of legal.
Yeah.
You can't. So
and we lost the shot.
Actors can't drive.
No, you can, but depending.
But he can't.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
This is a
I'm
Penn
famously
specific
known for
not being able to drive.
No, it was basically like, and this is what I was also trying to make a joke about, is like, so again, the end of the fourth season, spoiler if you haven't seen it, I spent 8 hours underwater.
Yeah.
In mortal danger, in a situation where I had to film underwater for so long that I was like, I cannot believe they let actors do this. This is insane.
Mm-hmm.
But that's fine. We'll do that. But then like, there's just like really strange, conflicting, contradictory sort of like I think protocols.
Yeah.
And this thing was basically like I don't even know why wasn't I allowed to drive that? Because I was driving the car other times.
I don't want to get into it now because I feel like I'm going to have some local 600 people call me after this.
That's our job, bro.
There's going to be a teamster in New York I love working in New York, and I wish, but we got to make it easier to shoot there or more affordable. But I don't want a teamster to sort of dump me in the Hudson next time I'm working.
That's fair. That's fair. Love the teamsters. Love you, bro.
Yeah.
Last question: where were you guys when you shot this?
This is way upstate. Was this Bedford? It's technically Bedford.
I actually don't even remember.
It was like a good hour outside of the city. We were way up, and this family had just built this house and had just moved in, and we came in. We're like, could we just camp out here for a week?
Oh my gosh,
and like
the house is its own character. As soon as they walked into the house, I was like, I want that house.
I know. I think we all felt very aspirational.
Yeah, it was a beautiful house.
So nice.
That house had not been lived in yet. It had been built.
Yeah.
And now
and
it's
they were
haunted.
about to
move in. And we're like, can we come in and completely fuck up this gorgeous place that you just built?
Yeah.
Miraculously, they said yes, and thank you to that family.
This episode of Podcrushed is brought to you by Booking.com, Booking.yeah. Every time I use Booking.com to find a place to stay in the US, I know that they'll have exactly what I'm looking for. They have a huge variety of options. They have hotels to vacation rentals, and I'm always able to find the thing that fits my specific needs. Booking.com has something for everyone. So with a little baby in tow, and by little baby, I obviously mean this guy, my little fur baby, Louie. My days of crashing on a friend's couch are unfortunately over. I hate to say it, but not everyone is as open to having a little dog as I would like. And so I have to find the place that's perfect for the two of us, that's pet friendly, that's affordable, where I know that we're both going to be comfortable and have the best time possible, worry free. And no matter what, Booking.com always helps me find a place that's in the right location for the right price. It's just ridiculously right. So find exactly what you're booking for on Booking.com, Booking.yeah.
Meet JLab, headphones as versatile as you. Work out, jam out, tune out, and find the perfect fit with JLab. JLab's diverse collection of headphones has something for everyone and for every moment. Think headphones in a million different colors and styles with features that you actually want for working out, chilling out, and jamming out. When I put my daughter to sleep, I lay with her until she falls asleep, which can sometimes take quite a while. And so one of the things that I always make sure I have with me are my JLab mini earbuds, specifically the JLab Buds Mini True wireless earbuds. They're super lightweight and they have a surprisingly long battery life. Like the first time I used them, I went like several days before I ever had to think about charging them again. It was shocking to me. It's like different from any earbuds I've had before. They have made our bedtime routine with our baby so much smoother because I'm so happy to just lay there with her until she fully falls asleep and is comfortable and I'm listening to a podcast or music or whatever. And we're just both so happy in that scenario. So I never do a bedtime without them, pretty much. Look for the blue box at retailers everywhere or shop jlab.com and use code PODCRUSHED for 15% off your order today.
Tell me you want this.
Follow me.
What the fuck?
Tell me how you killed Guinevere Beck.
So here there's like a tight act of like, it's an intimate scene that's about to turn, I don't know if violent, but yeah, tell us sort of what you're managing here.
Well, this is the climax of our love story, right? Of our first
whole
half
thing.
of love story. Yeah.
And it's not just, I mean, because you're talking about you're talking about for your work, the final episode.
Yeah, I don't think about anything else.
But but it is really, it's the climax of this, quote unquote, the love story part of Joe, where we're
right.
and this is, so I'll just say, and we're really going to get into this in part 2, so you got to stick around for part 2. This is we're giving you a tease of what we're going to get into. But to me, so I actually fought to be in as little clothing as possible for the only time in my life. In my life. Because it was like
Sophie just made a face like, oh.
I was thinking about that. I was like, I'm trying to match this with what I've heard from Penn about intimate scenes.
So
he's naked the whole time.
But this is important.
This was a battle this was the only disagreement we had.
Yes.
And
Lee wanted me to put more clothes on, and I was like,
no, but
brother,
you were right. But you were right. This
brother,
is, I'm not just saying that.
Walk us through it.
Yeah.
And this is maybe how we'll just get into part 2, because this is because part 2 is actually the most important. This sequence is the most important sequence of the entire series, bar none, because everybody probably thought, where is Joe gonna find his end? In
So
the cage.
tell us why you wanted to be naked.
No, I'm telling you. So where would anybody think that we want Joe to end? It's going to be in the cage, right?
Yeah.
No, that's not where he does his worst work. It's in the bedroom. That's where he is the most unaccounted for as a predator, as a manipulator, as an abuser, as a completely dishonest person. He, in the cage, he's actually a little bit like, hey, I'm transparent about who I am.
Yeah.
It's in the bedroom is where actually no one has brought him to account. You know what I mean?
Right.
So this is where we needed to freeze him. We needed to freeze him. If this was a different show and a different time and I was a couple years younger, he should have been naked. But the problem then that would have been there is that we also didn't want Maddie. We didn't want, what's her character's name?
Bronte.
We didn't want her to be in too much disrobe because we didn't want her to be too vulnerable. But she's, because what she's about to do, she's about to
take the power.
Potentially, yes, but she's doing it in the most vulnerable way. She's doing the thing that for the first time ever, you're like, I don't want them together. This is not consensual. This is so important.
Yeah.
This moment is like, this is why all the intimacy scenes in this season were worth it. They were all intentional. We had a lot of discussions about each and every one. They're leading up to this. It's like, this is so critical. We have to show him in an intimate, vulnerable, romantic way, sexual way, and we specifically have to not want it. For the first time, we all have to be united in being like, we do not want this. So that, my friends, is why I fought to be in my underwear. Because I just thought it was like, if I'm in a tank top and pants, which pants.
Yeah.
Well, it was
pants, Lee?
No, hold on. I never fought for pants.
You didn't. Actually,
my
that's right.
pitch
It
was
the tank
definitely
top.
no pants. Was the John McClane, just because I grew up on Die Hard and I love Die Hard, and I was thinking as we get into the episode, the more beat up and bloody and muddy and ripped and burned and everything it get like in the Die Hard movies, the sort of tracking the journey. I always like that stuff. And there's a gag we do later, which we can talk about, that would have made that a little easier. However, I have no shame in saying this was one where you were absolutely right, because it's really about laying Joe Goldberg bare, like seeing him at his most vulnerable, and as we're going to get into, sort of laying out his soul. We're going to really unpack his soul and his psychology, I guess.
I should say, part 2. We got to go. You got to watch it. Part 2 is out now /soon/ in
Find
the
it.
bio.
We'll put a link.
Link in the bio. Where is it? It's all falling apart.
We'll put a link.
Bye.
Okay.